The Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off of your Shady Rays by using promo code SGPN. And then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Wednesday, May the 3rd, currently 12:15 on the East Coast. Here to talk about some player performances from Tuesday night and as well get into our player prop bets for game two between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. But helping me to break it down, you guys know him as the newest voice here on the Propcast. It's got my guy Chris here with me. Chris, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
You know what's going on, man. It's a beautiful day in the sports betting world, man. My Lakers got a win last night. I'm super excited, super stoked as I've always been, throughout the entirety of this playoffs. It's like the cherry on top when your team is actually doing well. Also, I've been a Laker fan for a long time, and I can't say that that we've been this great for a long time, especially excluding the bubble. So it feels good to just be able to watch the games on the East Coast. It got to stay up a little later, but it's worth the sacrifice, man. It's worth the sacrifice, man. So I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I can't complain, man. It was a pretty good night in MLB and NBA last night. Fortunately for me, the over got to the window in the first half and the second half, a full game for the Lakers and the Warriors last night. Those were my bigger bets. Also did like the Lakers last night as well, like you mentioned, plus 4.5. Did like them on the money line as well. So glad they came through. It was just a kind of just based off the scheduling spot, for the Warriors coming off of that game 7, a quick turnaround. Teams usually don't do well in those situations. And you mentioned, I think, and I've talked about this on the NBA pod as well, is that for this Lakers team, man, like since they made those trades at the trade deadline, those guys have really been gelling well, and they've been getting contributions from guys outside of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And I think last night was another example where you had a guy outside of Anthony Davis also step up in Dennis Schroeder last night, right? He had 19 points last night, hit the 2 clutch free throws to seal the deal for the Lakers in game 1. So, there's been different guys all throughout the series against the Memphis. We talked about that, that has stepped up and kind of, taking some of the pressure off of guys like LeBron and Anthony Davis. But, there's going to be one of those series, Chris, and I know Lakers are your team, expand on it, but Anthony Davis should have a lot of success in this series. I think game 1 was a prime example of that last night, where he had 30 points and 23 rebounds. Also chipped in with 4 more blocks last night. Any thoughts on Anthony Davis from last night?
We just need to keep him healthy and whole,
Yeah, that's just what it is,
man. This dude is, I think, I think it's been 19 straight games, that he's played, that he's laced him up for the Lakers. And, knock on wood, I'm always doing that throughout the day. We can keep him, in this form, man. I won't talk about how far we could go, but I think we got some potential to, reach the promised land, So, hopefully we could just keep him that way. Looney's a really good defender, but he's kind of a flat-footed defender. He, not quick off his feet.
Mm-hmm.
AD has the, even with them being that tall, AD still has the size advantage. He has the, the quickness, the lateral, foot speed, and can kind of beat him to his spots. And when AD's jumpers going, off as it was in that first half, I think he started something like 9 for 10. And this dude is like, you really need that not to be going, because Looney is a more physical guy, right? He wants to use his, his force, to try to keep AD out the paint. And if AD, with him is always a mindset, if he wants to be aggressive and, kind of attack the rim and, not settle for those jumpers, he can be extremely difficult to guard. But when he's hitting that jumper as well, then you're like, I don't know what to give up. Like, so I thought that was the big piece for me, because Golden State came out, fired, and this team had hit 12 threes at halftime, and I was a little worried, only a 1-point lead, but AD kept it going in the second half, adding I think about 7 more points and some other contributions as well. But AD, man, we just need him to be whole and healthy,
Yeah, I think that's just what it is at the end of the day, man. I mean, look, he looked really good. He was in the right spots last night for the Lakers offense. Like you mentioned, he was knocking down the jump shot as well. Points where he was, around the free throw line, kind of in the paint where they were getting the basketball. And like you mentioned, because Looney's not the quickest on his feet, that AD was able to get to the baskets for some easy finishes. So, like you mentioned, if this guy's healthy, LeBron's healthy ish. We saw what they did in the bubble when they won the championship. When you have those two guys healthy, and arguably, these are the two top five guys in the NBA when they are fully healthy. So you always have a chance when those two guys are healthy for you. So there's no question about it. I'm holding some significant Laker futures. So I'm with you. I'm with you, Chris. I'm with your Lakers. I'm with Ski's Lakers here as well. So hopefully they could get to the promised land. But I really do feel I think the winner of this series is probably going to advance to the NBA Finals. I know Denver has looked pretty good, especially in the first two games against the Phoenix Suns. But there's just something different about this Lakers team, like we mentioned, since the post-trade deadline. With the surrounding pieces that are around AD and LeBron. And again, I mentioned this on the NBA pod as well, is that you don't have to rely on LeBron to go out and score 30, 35, 40 points a night like he was having to do so when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, when they made that run to the championship, or even when, with Miami. So hopefully they can keep it rolling here against the Warriors, and get to the Western Conference Finals, and then you're just one step away from getting to the NBA Finals. But don't want to put the cart before the horse. Chris, any takeaways or any player performances that kind of stood out to you from the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat game? Obviously, Jimmy Butler in game 2 for the Miami Heat, but you still had guys. Gabe Vincent stepped up. Caleb Martin, 22 points for him last night. And then on the Knicks side, you saw the return of Julius Randle. He had a good game. We knew Jalen Brunson was going to bounce back, but I feel like that for Brunson and Randle, I think those injuries are going to linger a little bit, despite how good Jalen Brunson is, man. But any takeaways from either one of those teams from at least the first two games?
Yeah, from a prop perspective, I was kind of kicking myself just a tad bit that I didn't take Brunson live yesterday.
Yeah,
he came out after game 1. He didn't have the greatest game 1. He put the blame on himself in the post game interview, and that that's what you typically want to see when you want to back a player. Them accepting accountability for not playing as well. So looking at him live, I can't remember how many points he had at halftime. But he started the game off slow again, and it could have been some of the injury stuff. I also give a lot of credit to Spoelstra. If this dude continues to put his players in position to be successful, and what I saw, so before I jump on to from an X's and O's perspective, Brunson really picked it up in the second half. They needed a big second half from him, and I can't remember how many points he finished with, but I know whatever his live number was, it would have absolutely cashed, and I didn't play it, so kind of kicking myself over that. But from an X's and O's perspective, the Knicks, I think the Heat understand that the Knicks aren't the greatest three-point shooting team, so they're really just loading up. You see a lot of almost like box and one type defense and man that has zone concept defense, because they really want to force the Knicks to be able to make outside shots, right? If RJ Barrett hits 2 threes in a row, okay, cool. We'll live with him shooting 4 more, because we know that the odds say that that percentage is going to drop and he's going to miss a few. So really what it seemed like to me is that Spoelstra had his guys saying just keep a man in front of the ball, and we're going to protect the paint, but we will live with the Knicks having to knock down some outside shots, and that's what ultimately propelled them to get the win last night, because they knocked a few down. I know Josh Hart hit the big one in the right corner. Jalen Brunson hit two big ones, but if they're not able to knock those shots down, it could be a tough series, man. And I have no idea what's going to happen in this series. I just don't feel like I want to back the Knicks after that performance last night and them barely squeezing by. I got a 5 when it opened, so that cash. But just the lack of desperation. I know Julius Randle's probably not 100%, but I don't know, man. I got a lot of thoughts about that game. Clearly, game 3, I see them laying 3.5 points going back home. Of course, the Jimmy Butler news is going to be significant, but you see him waving to the fans as this to say, yeah, we got you guys right where we want you. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, to say the least, man.
I mean, it also almost feels like that it might play out for the Miami Heat as it did in round 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks, where they stole game 1 on the road. Game 2, we saw the Bucks bounce back in round 1. I mean, there was, like you mentioned, there was 100% opportunity for Miami Heat, even without Jimmy Butler, to win game 2, if it wasn't for the clutch 3-point shots by the Villanova Wildcats there, and Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, right? So, we could be having a different conversation this morning with Miami Heat up 2-0, going back to their building on Saturday night in game 3, more than likely getting Jimmy Butler back. I think that if the medical staff would have cleared him I'll say this: if Miami was down 0-1, I think Jimmy Butler would have played last night in game two. But because they got game one last or in New York in game, they got game one. They already split it. They're like, okay, fine. Let's just give Jimmy the full week off. The next game three is not till Saturday. Gives him some extra time to rest, recover, get the treatment, and have him ready to go fully, or hopefully close to full by the time game three gets around on Saturday. So yeah, we'll see, man. Again, I know the Miami Heat don't have the biggest, sexiest role player names, but those guys are getting it done. You mentioned it, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Barton. Kevin Love has been productive for them in the minutes that he's played. I want to see more out of Bam, man. The Miami Heat need more out of Bam Adebayo. I know he had that triple double. I believe it was a game five, I believe, against the Bucks, but he needs to be a little more consistent. It seems like he's almost a little bit timid out there if you're watching him play a little bit, but we fully know that he's capable of knocking down that 10 to 12, 15 footer for the Miami Heat. He also can finish around the basket. So I think they need to get a little more out of Bam Adebayo as well. All right, before we dive into our player props here for game two between the Celtics and the Sixers, let me tell everyone about Shady Rays and Shady May. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you have an amazing 50% off discount with using promo code SGPN, you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays have you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades and customizable snow goggles, and much more. Shady Rays have durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love them, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. So go to shadyrays.com, use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Then take your receipt to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500 for the Shady May contest. All right, Chris, let's get into our player props here for tonight. I know it's only one game on the schedule, so we'll give 2 player props each and then our best bet as well for the game here tonight. Obviously, the big news here, Chris, Joel Embiid does return. I was hoping that he would have stayed out for one more game because I could have taken advantage of some more Paul Reed props, but nonetheless, the MVP for this year is back. So why don't you lead us off player prop number 1 for the game tonight, my man? What do you got?
Yeah, player prop number 1, like you said, the news, Joel Embiid said that he is going to, be back, barring any kind of setback after winning the MVP yesterday, which is, pretty cool. Finally, got one underneath his belt. Well-deserved, absolutely, of course, as well. Let's go with Mr. Marcus Smart. I think I'll start with Mr. Marcus Smart. Celtics already down 0-1 in this series. And this guy has been someone that's really taken advantage of not just the minutes, but also I think just the amount of attention that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been getting. So rebounds, points, and assists. 19.5 is what it is on Caesars right now, minus 123. But I also think it's playable at 20.5 as well. And the reason why is because he's averaging 24 so far throughout the playoffs in 7 games, 9.5 rebounds plus assists. And points, he's sitting at 16.7 points per game. I like taking the full just because Marcus Smart is a Swiss Army knife that can go down there and do a little bit of it all. Yep. But he's over in 5 of the last 6 games. 5 of the last 6 games. The only game that he stayed under me off was actually a game where he only attempted 8 shots. And every other game he's attempted at least 11 shots, and he's cleared this number pretty easily. I think he'll, like I said, continue to get the looks without with having, Tatum and Brown, especially with those guys starting so hot, hot as they did in the last game. Jason Tatum had, I think, 39 points, and Jaylen Brown had like 14, I think, in the, first few minutes of the game as well. Yeah. So it's going to create a lot of opportunities for, the other guys, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White. But I think Marcus Smart is going to be out there specifically for, his defense on James Harden, which they have to slow down. They can't let this guy go for 45 again. And with Joel Embiid coming back, I don't think that he will. I don't think that he would, even if Joel Embiid wasn't coming back. But so I think, his minutes are secured. I think, he brings a level of toughness to the team that, also keeps him out there. And I look for Marcus Smart to go over. It doesn't have to be anything big, maybe 12 points and let's say 13 points and 6 assists and 2 rebounds, or five
Yeah.
rebounds and 4 assists. So Marcus Smart over 19 and a half points, rebounds, and assists from Munaf. I also playable at 20 and a half.
Yeah, I was looking around and I was looking at this number. I thought, maybe it had been a typo for the books, but it's not. And like you mentioned, you brought it up here. Like, we know he's going to get the minutes. He's going to play at a minimum 30 minutes, right? He's averaging around 31.3 over the last 5 games for the Boston Celtics. Um, I think a lot of it is predicated on him, knocking down the 3-point shot because, like you mentioned, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are going to get their looks. And that gives the opportunity for guys like Marcus Smart to find those open shots and hopefully knock them down. But Smart, we know he's good for at least 3 to 4 rebounds per night. He's had at least 3 rebounds in 5 straight games. He's averaging around 3.4. The assists are always the thing with Marcus Smart, right? He's averaging 5 over the last 5 games for the Boston Celtics and averaging 17.4 points. So, I mean, we've seen in at least 3 out of the last 4 games, throughout the last 5 games, that Marcus Smart has scored 19 or more points for the Boston Celtics. So, if he gets like you mentioned, a 15-point game and it gets those couple of assists, couple of rebounds, this number definitely should get over. And again, they're going to need him tonight for sure if they're going to even up this series. So I think it's going to be a big team effort here tonight for the Boston Celtics. So I definitely can get behind that. All right, for my first player prop, I'm going to go over to the Boston Celtics as well. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum over 9.5 rebounds here tonight. This one comes in at plus money. It's around plus 110, if I'm not mistaken, over on DraftKings right now. Game one, Jason Tatum had, I believe, 11 rebounds for the Boston Celtics. Did also finish up with 31 points in that game. He's averaging right around 10.1 rebounds per contest, but he's gone over 10 or more rebounds in 3 of the last 5 games. He's done it in back-to-back playoff games for the Boston Celtics. 14 in game 6 against the Atlanta Hawks, and like I mentioned, in game 1, he did have 11 rebounds as well. I think with Joel Embiid back, we will see Robert Williams play a little bit more minutes, but for Robert Williams, he hasn't been, I don't know if they're still being cautious with him or whatever the case might be, or just based off of matchups, but he's still averaging around 22 minutes per game. And I think for a guy like Robert Williams, who can dominate on the on the defensive side and grab those rebounds, there haven't been playing him that much. And I think the beneficiary of that has been Jason Tatum. So I think this is another game where he does have a good night rebounding the basketball. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum over 9.5 rebounds at plus 110 right now over on DraftKings here, Chris.
Couldn't talk you up. If I like that, I always like taking, somebody's rebounds because I expect a little bit more defensive intensity when they, lost game 1 as a home favorite. Desperation spot, bounce back spot. Could not talk you off at all. I looked at this. So like you say, he's averaging 15.7 rebound chances as well. So could not talk you off. Like the Tatum look over, over the 9.5 rebounds for sure.
Yeah, I think that, like you mentioned, we're not going to expect another 45 performance from James Harden or not have a great shooting night like he did. So I think the rebounding opportunities are going to be there as well. Number one, I also think that with Embiid returning, I think that the Boston Celtics should push the pace a little more and try to see where he's at, stamina wise and kind of still getting his legs back under him. And we've seen it throughout the season where, number one, they like to jack up the 3-point shot and they also like to play at a faster pace. So that only leads to more rebounds opportunities. And like you mentioned, that Jason Tatum does get them Jason Tatum does get those rebounds for the Boston Celtics. All right, Chris, before we continue here, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. Basketball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes, plus plenty of ways to win with NBA, NHL, and MLB with their top player prop parlays. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. It's Kentucky Derby week and the Notorious OTB, brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, has all your Triple Crown bets. Plus, if you leave a rating and review for the show whenever you get your podcast, Between now and Belmont Saturday on June 10th, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a canvas print of the Wolves' one of a kind Fallen Bob painting. It's post time, and again, make sure to check out the Notorious OTB podcast over on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for all your bets for the upcoming Kentucky Derby on Saturday. All right, Chris, let's keep it going here, my man. Our guy Mitch in the chat. What's going on, Mitch? He said he likes rebounds and assists here tonight for Tatum. So, yeah, right there with you, man. I think it should be a big Tatum game here tonight for the Boston Celtics. All right, Chris, player prop number 2, my man. What do you got?
Yeah, Mitch just stole it. He just stole it. I love the line. I played it in game 1. It's just something that he's historically done well against his team. If you look at the game 1 performance, and he did have 39 points. That's not typical for what he typically does to the Philadelphia 76ers. I think a tad bit of that has to do with the pace increasing without Joel Embiid being there. But this is a number that he cleared in the last game. I think he absolutely clears it again. And I want to say in the 4 times that he faced him this season, if he's 3-1 to the over on this number, or something like 4. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but Tatum has historically, played really, really well. We know that Philadelphia. I'm sorry. They have some pretty good wing defenders. They have some guys that can kind of stay in front of Tatum. But at the end of the day, Tatum's going to get to his spots. He's going to share the ball. He's such a high usage guy that you can just always kind of look at his PRA over. And I don't think that he has the lights out shooting game. I think this game's more like an under game, which also makes me kind of want to target the rebounds plus assist line. So I like the Tatum look as well. When I looked at it initially, it actually went up on a couple of sports books. It was 14.5, which, you don't like that as much. You want to take the 13.5. And now I see it back down to 13.5. I like that number a lot. I'm not sure what Mitch got it at, but absolutely love Tatum. 13.5 rebounds plus assists. I see it currently right now at minus 120. Definitely shop around because I didn't check for the best book like I typically do for you guys, but definitely shop around. Take Tatum over 13.5 points plus rebounds plus assists today.
Yeah, he's done this in 13.5. He's gone over this in 7 out of the last 8 head-to-head meetings in the regular season against the Philadelphia 76ers with 13.5. And then in the playoffs, just looking at his last 5 games, he's done it in 4 of the last 5 games for the Boston Celtics. So couldn't talk you off. He's the guy that plays, like you mentioned, the usage rate is through the roof for Jason Tatum. The offense goes through Jason Tatum. And he also plays the minutes as well, right? He's averaging 40.2 minutes per contest so far, at least over the last 5 games in the playoffs. So, yeah, definitely cannot talk you off, man. If they end up deciding to double him, he'll get the assists. And I just talked about the rebounds for Jason Tatum. So it should be a big night for Jason Tatum here tonight for the Boston Celtics. All right, player prop number 2 for me. I am going to look at Joel Embiid here tonight, but I'm going to back his assist here tonight, Chris. I don't think that the Boston Celtics will, double Joel Embiid here tonight. But the number's at 3.5 right now. And again, it may depend on how many minutes he actually does play. And if it does maybe turn into a blowout for the Boston Celtics, that they're up by 20 plus points at the end of 3 quarters, you may not see him in the 4th quarter. But I still think that at 3.5, this is a number that Joel Embiid can get to. Currently over on FanDuel, it's at plus 124. And I gave this play out as well on the NBA pod this morning, but he's done this in, I believe, it was 9 out of the last 11 games against the Celtics in head-to-head matchups in the regular season. And I know he's only done it in 2 out of the last 4 games. 2 out of the last 5 games that he's played in the playoffs. So let me rephrase that. So in the playoffs, he only had 1 game where he had 7 assists. But going back to the regular season, like I mentioned against the Sixers, he's done this. He's had 5 or more assists in, I think it was like 10 of the 11 games. So I think number one, that if they do double him, that's great. He'll get the assist opportunities. But this is a guy that, we know that can fill the basket, obviously scoring points, but for his assists, especially since the 2021 season where he's gone over, he's had at least 5 or more assists in 7 of the last 8 head-to-head meetings. That's the exact stat what it was. So at plus money, I couldn't ignore it here, Chris. So over 3.5 assists, plus 124 over on FanDuel for Joel Embiid here tonight in game two.
Yeah, it's a spicy one. I think he absolutely could get there. Usage gonna be there, for sure. And I also just feel like they're not gonna bring him back if he could potentially not be, one of the close to the best version of himself. Especially already up 1-0.
Yeah.
If you play hard tonight, if you play Embiid tonight after being up 1-0, and most teams come in there, just to get the split, you're really going for the win. So it's going to be interesting, like you said, to see if they double. I don't think that they will, but he should have plenty of opportunities, just based on his usage alone. And if Philly's still feeling it from deep, if this could cash in the first half, they were on fire from the 3-point line. So I couldn't talk you off,
Yeah. All right. So that's 2 player props each. Let's get into our best bets here for tonight. Chris, lead us off, my man. Best bet for tonight for your player prop. Game 2 between the Celtics and the Sixers.
So super, super spicy one. People probably going to be like, what is this guy talking about? Mr. P.J. Tucker. I'm on his points, rebounds, and assists. If the line is so low, it's so tempting. I felt like I had to shoot my shot. Hopefully he shoots some shots tonight because he didn't shoot any in the last game. But 9.5, is the number. It's actually plus money on BetMGM right now. If you get the number now. So, like I mentioned, he's coming off the game where he didn't, he didn't even attempt a shot, but he did have 5 rebounds and 1 assist in that game. So he had 6 without even taking a shot. The dude played 37 minutes. I expect that to happen again. We know that he's going to be needed to be out there. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, defending those guys. Before the last game, and before game 4 against the Brooklyn Nets, both of those games did not feature Joel Embiid, of course. He had 3 straight games with Embiid that he had actually cleared this number in the Nets series. And of course, totally different series. I totally get it. But in 4 games versus Celtics specifically, he has cleared this number in all 4 of them, throughout the regular season as well. I don't know what it is. He typically just plays well. I remember the last game of the regular season when the Philadelphia 76ers were taking the game extremely serious because Joel Embiid was trying to win MVP. I remember him hitting a couple late threes to give them the only win of the regular season that they got against this team. So, this is a number that he could clear at halftime. I just feel like it's absolutely worth the shot here today. Played at least 25 minutes in all 4 of those games. Like I said, I don't think the minutes going to be there at all. And I think, just his what he brings to this team is something that nobody else brings, with his ability to be able to, hamper slower. It didn't really look like he was at all last game because Tatum and Jaylen Brown played so well offensively. But like I said, I think this game, is a slower pace. I don't think, anybody has the offensive explosion that they had in the last game. So I like PJ to make a couple shots, maybe 1 or 2. All right. I'm not asking for too many. Grab a few rebounds. He's averaging 6 in the playoffs, and collect a few assists. He's also averaging 2 assists. So give me PJ Tucker on a spicy one, over 9.5, everything combined. Everything. I just need 10 tonight, PJ Tucker.
Just do something, man. Just make
with the
a
stick,
3.
Yeah, with the stick. Just do something.
Yeah. It's definitely a buy low situation, right? I mean, I think the big story everybody was talking about, at least gambling Twitter, was, we saw the memes, we saw the posts and stuff like that, that he didn't attempt any shots. But again, like you mentioned, prior to the last 2 games, he just did it alone on rebounds and assists. I think it was game 2, game 1. He only had 7 rebounds and 2 assists, but he still had 6 points in that game. I think that when Embiid is in, obviously, like you mentioned, that he's going to get those looks from the corner, right? And I think that we saw that out, and I saw this a lot all throughout the time that he was with the Houston Rockets with James Harden there, that he was a master of that 3-point shot from the corner. Now with Joel Embiid back on the floor, I think those opportunities will be there for PJ Tucker. And also, he's a guy that can, get offensive rebounds and put it back up. We're not asking for a lot here, man. This is probably, it's very low. It's 9.5, 10. Shop around for the best number, but it's definitely a buy low situation. I'm not going to say I'm not going to talk you off of it, but it's definitely spicy for sure. But again, you see the possibilities where he definitely can get it done for sure. I think there's no doubt about that. All right, for my best bet here, Chris, I am going to go over to Jaylen Brown here tonight. I'm going to take the over 2.5 3-point shots made for him here tonight in game 2. Um, it's pretty simple for me, man. It's at plus odds right now. When I got it last night, it should still be there. But he's really been good shooting the basketball, whether it's been from the field or especially from the 3-point line. I think he's shooting it right around 54.1% from beyond the arc in the playoffs. Um, Sorry, let me rephrase that. So yeah, in the playoffs, 54.1%. Over the last 5 games, 59.3% for Jaylen Brown from 3-point land. He's made at least three pointers in 4 straight playoff games for the Celtics. Game 1 against the Sixers, he only got up 10 shots. We know that's going to change here tonight, that he should get a lot more shot volume as well. But he still ended up with 24 points in game 1 for the Boston Celtics. So, number one, obviously, we talked about Jason Tatum, who gets the minutes. Jaylen Brown, the second guy right there, if you want to call it 1A, 1B, however you want to, classify those two guys. Those are your two guys on offense, right? And I think that for Brown, like I mentioned, he's made, at least 3 in 4 straight playoff games, just 3 or 4 in game 1. Should have some more opportunities as well. But he's just efficient shooting it. I know he doesn't get a lot of attempts. He averages around 5.3 per game, but the rate that he knocks them down at, he's a really good shooter from beyond the arc at 54.1%. So for me, for my best bet, Jaylen Brown over 2.5 3-point shots made. Again, shop around for the best number because currently right now I'm seeing on DraftKings it's still at plus 110. But at plus odds, I really couldn't ignore it here, Chris.
Yeah, it's really hard to ignore him, And one thing about, Jaylen Brown shooting threes, as opposed to Tatum shooting threes, and, there's a lot of guys on this team, they launch threes, they play the percentages, is that Jaylen Brown typically shoots the better threes, right? He shoots the less uncontested ones, right? He gets the open looks, right? So I could not talk you off. I watched them, like you said, clear this number plenty of times in the playoffs, plenty of times throughout the regular season as well. And, if you're Philly, you got to pick and choose your poison in this game. So, Boston's going to generate a bunch of open shots. It's a lot of penetration and kick, right? So you just, you literally need them to shoot a couple, and then you're just playing the percentages. This reminds me a lot, of a lot of, first round Timberwolves when you were taking Mr. Jamal Murray, who was doing you pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like that, right? We're just playing the numbers, and I think Jaylen Brown goes over this number as well. If I like that look a lot.
Yep, 100%, man. So hopefully Jaylen Brown gets it done here tonight, and PJ Tucker gets it done for our best bets as well. So game 2 tonight. It's only one game on the NBA schedule, but it should be a good one between the Sixers and the Celtics. That's going to do it here for the Propcast. Chris, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here, my man?
Nah, man. Looking for a bounce back spot, from Boston tonight. You can't go to Philly down 0-2, especially when you're the higher seed. So I look for a bounce back there. And then also just I guess honorable mention. I was looking into Mr. Robert Williams. I know you talked about his minutes. I think that they probably increased just a tad bit tonight with Embiid being back. I would look at his blocks, if not an official play at all, but his blocks 1.5 are plus money. I think 155, plus 155 on Bet365 was the best number. And this is a number that he fluctuates with. He goes back and forth, could completely go under with 0, but then he typically backs it up with 2 or 3. In this series, if you kind of go back and look, he's been, 0, then he goes to 2, 0, then he goes to 3, 0, then he goes to 2. So, just seeing Embiid back out there a little bit more, I think this has some value tonight as well. Could be, worth a sprinkle, maybe not a full unit, but half unit, quarter unit on it. I think, just Embiid's presence being back, them in a desperation spot at home, you're probably going to see a really motivated Robert Williams tonight, looking to take on that matchup with Embiid. Not to say he's going to win the matchup, but I do think to go over the 1.5 blocks, and really that's all I got, man. Thanks to everybody who's watching and supporting as always, and let's enjoy the games and cash some tickets, man.
Yeah, let's catch some tickets for sure here tonight. Hopefully it's a good game between the Celtics and the Sixers here tonight. So hopefully we can cash some player prop tickets as well here for this game. So definitely enjoy it. Hopefully we can get to the window, catch some of these tickets like Chris mentioned, and yeah, man. We'll be back on Friday for the Propcast, talking about some more player props. Make sure to follow Chris on Twitter at CrispyCappin, CAPPINN. Follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. If you haven't already, do us a favor, leave us a rating and review for the Propcast, and make sure just look up on your respective podcast players, whether it's Spotify, whether it is Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to the pod. Type in the Propcast, subscribe to us, follow the show, leave us a rating and review. Definitely helps us grow the show. All right, like I mentioned, we'll be back on Friday. Till then, good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.